Alright everybody, today's lesson is on adding and subtracting unlike fractions. So far we should already know how to add and subtract like fractions. What like fractions were was if we were doing things like 3/8 and we were adding to that, which would be 1/8, where both denominators were the same, and that's what we call like fraction because the denominators were the same. All we had to do there was we added the numerators together. Denominator stayed the same, and of course we always simplify. Well, the only difference today is going to be these denominators might not be the same. All right, so you end up doing something like if we had 3/7 and I tried to take away 1/2 from that. Okay, where right now what we're looking at then is that these denominators are unlike. So rule number 1 today is we have to take these denominators, the 7 and the 2, and we need to find common denominator. So in this case that'd be something like 14. So we change both of these fractions over so that the denominators were 14, and then we'd be able to go ahead and do the problem. So that's kind of our goal today, is first make sure that they have common denominators. That's rule number 1. Once we do that, then we either add or subtract the numerators. Denominators are still going to stay the same, and then always simplify. Okay, here's 2 problems for us. Example 1, there's an A and a B. I'm going to go ahead and do part A, and then I'll let you guys do part B. So part A. First thing I look here is at our denominators, and I see that our denominators are a 12 and a 3. So what I need to do is change those. I need to change them so that we have into equivalent fractions that have the same denominator. Well, the 12 was okay. I don't even have to change that one because I know I can turn the 3 into a 12. I can turn the 3 into a 12 by going times 4. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 1 times 4 gives me 4/12. So 1/3 becomes 4/12. Since the 5/12 already has a 12, that numerator just stayed the same. So all I had to do was really in this one change that second fraction. Now that I have common denominators, it's just like before. Okay, the denominator is going to stay the same now as a 12. All we have to do, since it's an adding problem, or I should say because the signs are the same, they're both positive numbers as I'm going to add. So the numerators, 5 plus 4 is 9. Okay, and after I add them together again, always simplify. So in this case, 9 and 12, I can divide both of those by 3. And when I simplify, I'm going to get 3/4. So when I do the original problem, 5/12 plus 1/3, we get 3/4. And again, that's all by finding common denominators. Okay, you guys try part B. Pause the video. Okay, should be back. Looking for common denominators of 6 and 9. I'm going to write my new fractions right below here. And really what we're doing is thinking about multiples of 6 and 9. Well, multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and so on. Multiples of 9 are 9, 18, 27, 36. So the one number I said that was common between them was 18. I can change both a 6 and a 9 into 18. Now I can do that. So the negative 5/6, I can do that by going times 3 to get 18. So then I have to do 5 times 3, which gives me 15/18. And let's not forget that negative then is going to come down here. Okay? 9 times 2 gives me 18, so I have to do 7 times 2, which is 14. And again, don't forget that negative comes down here. And remember how we look at this. Okay? I look at this as a negative 15/18, and this as a negative 14/18. So the signs are the same. They're both negative, so that tells me to add them together. Okay, the 15 and the 14 gives me 29. Denominator stays the same as 18, and since they were both negative, they're going to stay negative. And we simplify. So again, when I simplify 29 over 18, 18 goes into 29 once. I need another 11 to get to 29. Denominator stays the same. And again, always, you just the negative just kind of keeps following along here. You don't really have to do much with it, other than it told us to add them together. Okay, negative 1 and 11/18 is what I come up with. Okay, next problem. Okay, negative 2 and 1/3 plus 6 and 3/5. So again, I want to do this one, and I'm going to turn over to example 3 for you because this is where it gets a little tricky. This is where I've noticed that students struggle. Okay, the one thing I'm going to point out before I even do common denominators is this. This is a negative number. This is a positive number. The signs are the same, so I'm going to subtract. Okay, I'm going to subtract. And let's just pretend here that this was the problem. Negative 2 plus 6. Well, what you'd end up doing, because the signs are different, is you would do 6 minus 2, which is 4. You keep the sign of the number that had more. Since there were more positive, my answer would be positive. Well, it's going to be the same thing here. Okay? So, let's go ahead and do this problem now. Okay? And there's my little note to us there. Remember to do that. Okay? First thing I want to do is find common denominators. So, my denominators are a 3 and a 5. How about we change them so that 15 is the common denominator between these? Okay? So then this 3 has to be multiplied by 5 to get 15. 1 times 5 gives me 5, and that negative 2 as the whole number just comes down. The 5 has to be times 3 to get 15, so I do 3 times 3 is 9, and that positive 6 just comes down. Okay, now that I have that, remember what we just said in our little note over here. Okay, you're always taking the one that has more, okay, and then going the opposite direction. We got to do the same thing here. Since the signs are different, I know I have to subtract these things. Okay, but our rule is that I'm going to start with this number right here, and then I have to subtract going this way. So when I do the fraction parts first, I do 9 fifteenths minus 5 fifteenths, which is 4 fifteenths. Okay, now I do the whole number parts. The 6 minus 2 gives me 4, and just like we said in the beginning, since there were more of the positive numbers, that gives me a positive answer there. So 4 and 4 fifteenths. Okay, kind of the same type of a problem. Why don't you guys go ahead and try this one, remembering which way that you might be adding or subtracting. So pause the video, go to it. Okay, we're back. Go ahead and doing common denominators here between 3 and 9. One way you can always get a common denominator is just by multiplying the denominators together. Doesn't always give you the least common, but if you're ever stuck, it does give you a common denominator. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. 3 times 11 is 33. So that's going to give me a common denominator, which means I have to do 11 times 3 to get 33. So 4 times 3 gives me 12. That whole number of a 1 just comes down. This 3 times 11 is 33. 2 times 11 gives me 22. And the negative 2 comes down. And remember what we're doing here. We're looking at this as this is a positive, and this one is a negative. So the signs are different. Again, I'm going to subtract. Okay? Now, you always start with which one has more. Do the negatives have more, or do the positives have more? Okay, well in this case the negatives have more. Okay, because the 2 is more than the 1. So that there are more negatives, which means when I subtract, I start with that one, and I subtract going towards the other one. So fraction parts, 22 over 33 minus 12 over 33 gives me 10 over 33. Whole number parts, 2 minus 1 is 1. Since there were more negatives, my answer's a negative. I can't reduce the 10 over the 33, so negative 1 and 10 over 33 is my final answer. Okay? Last example of the day. Again, 2 of them. We can do these both together, so we got to throw some variables in here. Okay, part A, no different than anything else that we've done. You got to get common denominators. So to do this, for part A here, I'm going to change these common denominator between 2 and 6 is how about we use 6. Okay, so then this 2 has to go times 3 to get 6. And if I do A times 3, just think about that. Would I want to write it as A times 3? I don't know what A is, so it's going to stay in A. Well, let's think about it. We always write the coefficient first. So 3A is the same thing as A times 3. So I'm just going to write it that way. Subtracting, well, this one just stays in A. Okay, now I have common denominators. I can do my numerators. So on top I have 3A minus 1A, which gives me 2A. My denominator stays the same, that's 6. And then you always got to look to simplify. So even if it was just a fraction like 2/6, I know 2/6 would become 1/3. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm just reducing. Okay, now the 1A, I don't have to write the 1, so I'm just going to write A. Denominator is a 3. And there's our final answer, A over 3. Okay, B. To me, this one's a little more tricky because it's not like the last one where you see 2 and 6 and they both went into 6. I don't know what X and Y is, so it's hard to come up with a number that I can make the denominators. But remember what we said, when in doubt, you can always just multiply these two numbers together. I don't want to put an X there, but I want to multiply. So if I multiply X and Y together, that's going to give me a common denominator, which is just XY. That's what happens when you multiply them together. Okay, now think about it. What does the 5 over X, what does the X have to be multiplied by? Well, it has to be multiplied by y. So then I do the numerator, 5 times y, okay, which is going to be 5y. And then with my second one here, again, the common denominator is xy. Well, this one has to be multiplied by an x to get x and y. So then the 2 times x, which gives me 2x. Okay, and when we simplify, remember what happens. The denominators are going to stay the same, so xy. And then the 5y plus 2x, well, those are not like terms. So we simply just write it as 5y plus 2x because that's as simple as it can go. Because we don't know what x and y are, we can't simplify that. We can't combine them together. So final answer is 5y plus 2x over xy. That's it. That's our lesson for today.